No.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, inviting you to register and like and share our live stream if you want to have a certificate of event participation. Okay, let me share my screen. My StreamYard. Okay, I'll be adding our instructor, Sir James De Ocampo, 3D animation instructor from UE. Hi,
Hello,
Sir
Ma'am
James.
Nancy. Good afternoon.
Ayan, good afternoon to you. Okay, sige, Sir James. Let's share screen.
Okay. Shall we start? Share screen.
Okay, while we are waiting for the share screen, inviting you to join us in meetup.com/Autodesk Community Philippines. Okay, and we also have Autodesk Maya user group Philippines in Facebook. And don't forget to join us in Autodesk Community Philippines. Like and follow. Okay, I'll be adding the screen of Sir James. Ayan, go ahead
Okay.
po.
Thanks, Ma'am Nancy, for inviting me. And okay, so today our topic will be about 3D modeling for beginners. Okay, so this webinar is focused on 3D modeling basics, the fundamentals. So even if you're not using Autodesk Maya, maybe you can use the fundamentals of 3D modeling that we will be able to discuss for today. Okay, so before that, I'll introduce myself. Hello, I'm James Rafael Del Campo, 3D and VFX professor at University of the East, Manila. And also, I'm a 3D and multimedia artist, okay, for games and films. Okay, so our topic is about 3D modeling. Okay, so what is 3D modeling? Based on its definition online, let's read it. In 3D computer graphics, 3D modeling is the process of developing a mathematical coordinate-based representation of any surface of an object, inanimate or living, in the three dimensions via specialized software by manipulating edges, vertices, and polygons in a simulated 3D space. So this is the technical definition of 3D modeling, but let's simplify it a bit so the beginners can also understand. Okay, so modeling. Okay, we can compare it to digital sculpting creates virtual 3D models. Okay, a digital 3D modeler creates a virtual 3D model of a character or objects. Then the final 3D model is a virtual digital wireframe of points and edges that connects them together. Okay, so like what we learned on our school before in geometry, the points and edges. So 3D model is basically a polygon that is made in digitally. Okay, let's look at some examples. Okay, so for example, this 3D model created by Daniel Arriaga, okay, of Lotso from Toy Story. So here are some sketches, and here is the wireframe which was mentioned earlier, the wireframe of the 3D model created of Lotso. So it's composed of points, okay, and lines until we are able to create the actual 3D model. Let's look at other examples. Also, here is Carl from the movie Up. Okay, so just like the first example, it's made up of wireframe, okay, his cane, and the actual human character. Okay. 3D models doesn't have to be also simple. There are also more complicated or yes, more complicated characters. For example, here's a digital double of Will Smith. Okay. So we can create from simple up to hyper-realistic models. Okay. So next, what is the application or software that we are going to use for today? So we're going to use the software Autodesk Maya. Okay, there are other 3D modeling softwares, but today we're going to use Maya. So Autodesk Maya, commonly shortened to just Maya, is a 3D computer graphics application that runs on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It is used to create assets for interactive 3D applications, including video games, animated films, TV series, and visual effects. Okay, so let's proceed to the actual demo. I'll just share my screen. Share screen.
Ayan, Sir James, can we adjust the volume
Oh, okay.
a little louder? Thank you.
Next. Okay. Hello, hello. Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's begin. Here is the interface of Maya. Okay, when you first download and open Maya, this is what you will be able to see. Okay. If you want to make sure that this is the default workspace, you can go to Windows at the upper left corner of your um, software and go to Windows, then Workspace, and then reset Maya Classic to factory default. Okay. So we will be able to make sure that we have the same interface. Okay. So you might be scared at first when you this is your first time to handle Maya, especially when this is your first time to handle a 3D software. But don't be scared or don't worry since we will begin at the very basics of interacting with the software. Okay. So let's go first with the viewport. Okay. This large area at the center of our screen, this is called the viewport. Okay. Everything that we will do inside of Maya, we will see here. Okay. All the modeling, animation, okay, all the magic will happen inside of the viewport. So if we will compare it, if we are a painter, this will be our canvas. Okay. So next is the shelves. Okay. So this is the shelf at the top of our viewport. Okay. There are many shelves. So there is for polymodeling, sculpting, rigging, animation, rendering, effects. Okay. So there are many shelves right here. Okay, but we will focus first in the polymodeling since that will be our topic for today. Okay, so here you will see at the first group there are shapes. So there is a sphere, cube, cylinder. Okay, then if you move, there are other tools. But let's focus first on the basic shapes. So let's try this sphere. Okay, when we click one of these shapes, our icons, let's test it. Okay, there. The model will be placed in the middle of our viewport. Okay, so let's press Ctrl Z. Okay, for example, I'll pick the cube. Okay, the cube will be placed in the center of our viewport. Okay, so let's now see how to interact with the viewport. Okay, the first tool or the first keys that we're going to use is the scroll wheel. Okay. When we use the scroll wheel, okay, it will help us zoom in and zoom out within our viewport. Also, you will see my key press and mouse clicks in the lower left, so you can follow me. So first tool is scroll, zoom in and out. So first interaction with the viewport is the scroll for zooming in and zooming out. Okay. Next is let's hold Alt and press right click. Okay. That's also the same, Alt and right click for zooming in and zooming out. So it's based on your preference which one will you choose for zooming in and zooming out. You can use the scroll wheel or you can use Alt and right click. Okay. Next, let's try orbiting or rotating in the viewport. Okay. What if I want to see the other side of the cube? Right now, I'm only seeing the front side of the cube. I want to see the other side. So we can use Alt then left mouse button. Okay. Hold Alt, then press the left mouse button and you can orbit the viewport or rotate your viewport. Okay. So let's write that too. Alt plus left mouse button is orbit. Okay. So zooming in is the scroll and then orbiting is Alt left mouse. Okay. Then last interaction with the viewport. Uh, for example, I zoom in on my model like this, and I want to move the viewport. Okay, without rotating the viewport or orbiting the viewport, I want to see the upper portion of my model. Okay, I can use the pan tool or hold Alt, then press the middle mouse button. Okay, and then now I can pan or move the viewport based on where I want to focus. So hold Alt, then middle mouse, okay, to pan the viewport. Okay, you can do it while you're zoomed out. Okay, Alt, then middle mouse, or also when you're zoom in, you can use that. So Alt, that's middle mouse button is pan. Okay, also, okay, so that's the basics, three basic interaction with the viewport, the zooming in and zooming out, orbiting and panning. Okay, next, let's try to use the focus. Okay, for example, I have this 3D model cube. I want to focus on it. So I can press the key letter F. Let's press F and Maya will focus on the model that you selected. Okay, I'll create two models. Okay, one sphere and one cube. Okay, once I click in the sphere and I press letter F, okay, I will be focused on the sphere model. Okay, then when I click the cube and I press letter F, I will be focused on the cube model. Okay, so that's one useful tool. F is for focus. Okay. So you can utilize this when you have so many models already. Okay, and you want to focus on one, you can just press letter F. So let's delete this first. To delete a model, just press letter D or delete. Sorry, press delete. Okay. Okay, let's focus on the cube. Okay. So here is our basic cube model. Okay. So we want to see its details about it. So we can go to the right side of our screen. If we focus our attention on the right side of our screen, when we click a model, Here in the channel box, we will see the details of the model. Okay, it's translate in the different axes, X, Y, and Z, the rotation, and the scale. Okay, so for example, if I move this model, you will see that the translate will also be changed in the channel box. Okay. If I move it to left and right, it will change in the x-axis. If I move it up and down, it will change in the y-axis. Okay. So we already know how to interact with the viewport. Okay. Let's now focus on how to interact with the actual model. How do I move it? How do I make it bigger or make it smaller? Or how do I rotate it? Okay. So let's focus now on the tools on interacting with the actual model. Okay. First tool is select tool or letter Q. Okay, let's press Q. Okay. So select tool is this cursor icon, just like its name. Okay. Select tool, it will make you select the model. Okay. Next tool is W. When I press W, there will be manipulators, these arrows that will appear. So when I press Q, there are no manipulators, and then when I press W, you will see these arrows. So W is for move tool. Okay. So you can click and hold these arrows. For example, I'll click and drag the arrows forward, and then I can now move this model. So for example, I want to place this model here in the very front of my um, viewport. I can do that using these arrows. Okay. For example, I'll move it here in the left or in the right. Okay. So that is the use of the move tool. Okay. So right now we have two choices how to move our model using the W tool or the move tool, or we can manually input the coordinates here. For example, I want to move it 3 in the z-axis. So you can manually input the values here, or we can use the arrows of the move tool. Okay. Another tip is you can use or you can click in the very middle. Okay. If you click the middle part, okay, you can move it freely wherever you want. So for example, here in the arrows, you can only move it in one axis. Okay. But if you select the middle part, okay, you can move it anywhere you like. You can move it here or here. Okay. It's up to you where you want to move it. Okay. So that is the second tool. First is Q, select tool for selecting. Then W, move tool for moving the model. Okay. Next. Next tool is letter E. Okay, letter E for rotate tool. Okay. So just like its name, you can use it to rotate the model. And also just like the move tool, it also has a manipulators. Okay. There's a red line, red circular line, green, blue, and yellow. Okay, let's test it. So let's test the red first. So just like the move tool, we can click and hold that, and we can now rotate on the direction that we selected. For example, this green, if you rotate that, okay, it will rotate on that axis. Okay, and on the blue, it will rotate now in the z-axis. Okay, so depending on what you need, For the model, what direction it will be facing, you can rotate the model whichever way you like. So in the x-axis, a y-axis, and z-axis. Also, just like the move tool, you can input it manually here in the channel box. Okay, for example, I want to rotate it 45 degrees in the y-axis. Okay, so right now, that is the angle of the rotation of my model. Okay, so third tool is rotate tool. Okay, also another tip is when you click in the middle part, just like the move tool, when I click in the middle part, okay, if I rotate it, okay, I can rotate it freely wherever direction I like. I'm not constrained in this single axis. Okay, so you can use that. Click the middle part anywhere in the middle and then rotate freely wherever you want. Okay, so next tool. Okay, so if you can notice, the tools are all close together. So Q, W, E, and R. Okay, so the last tool is letter R. Okay. First, for letters on our keyboard, letter R is the scale tool. Also, all this tool is you can view in the left side of your screen. So Q is the cursor icon. W, here is the icon for move tool. Okay, E or rotate tool, here is the icon for rotate tool, and R for the scale tool. Okay, but let's try to um, um, be familiarized with the tools or the hotkeys. So we don't have to click it manually here. Okay, so we can make our workflow faster. So Q for select tool, W for move tool, E for rotate tool, and R for scale tool. Okay, so what does scale tool do? Okay, let's test it. Okay, just like the move tool, it also has manipulators. Okay, so for example, I'll click and drag this um, green arrow or green line. Okay, what this does is it scales our model on the direction that we selected. So for example, I select this yellow line and move it upward. My model will now be scaled bigger. Or if I will move it downwards, okay, my model will be compressed and become smaller. Okay. Also works on the other axis. For example, this x-axis, okay, and the z-axis. Okay. So you can manually input it here just like the other tools. Okay, for example, 10. Okay. So just like the other tools, you can select the middle part. Okay, this cube in the middle, and our model will be scaled uniformly in all directions. Okay, so if we want to uniformly scale the cube or whatever model you have, you can just press this and scale it up or scale it down. Okay, so those are the four basic tools. Select tool for selecting, W or move tool for moving, E for rotating, R for scale. Okay, so yes, that's the four basic tools. Okay, so let's try creating a simple um, Let's focus first on the components of a 3D model, okay, before we proceed in the modeling part. Okay, let's use this cube as an example. Okay, so one 3D model is composed of three components. Okay, the vertex or the points that create the 3D model, the edge, okay, or the line, and then the face. Okay, when we connect the lines, we will be able to make one face. Okay, so let's explore those components. Okay, first let's explore the vertex. Okay, right click, hold right click, and let's go to vertex. Okay, okay. So we can see the vertices of our model. Okay, so vertex are just like what I said, are the points that is present in your 3D model. Okay, so here are the points. We can select one point, okay, or we can select multiple points by holding shift. Okay, okay. So let's write it down. So first is the vertex. Vertex are the points. So how do I go there? I'll just click my model, hold right click, and then hover over vertex and then release. Okay, and then I'll be able to select the vertices that I want. Okay, so let's test. Let's try to select one vertex and let's use the tools. Okay, for example, I use W or move tool. I'll move it up and then there. I can, okay, manipulate the vertex, the single vertex of my model, or I can manipulate two vertices at the time. Select them both, move them up and down, use the rotate tool. Okay, so also rotate tool is, I can use that. And then scale tool. I can also use scale when using the vertices. Okay, so that's the first component, the vertex. Okay, so for example, I'm done editing the vertices. I want to go back in selecting my model. But right now, I can't go back. When I click the model, I'll just be able to click the vertex. I can click the main model. So to be able to click the main model again, just hold right click again and then select object mode. Okay. When you do that, okay, you'll be able to select the whole model again. Okay. So the object mode. Okay. Let's go now to the second component, which is the edge. Okay. So hold right click and then select edge, release, and then right now we can able to select now the edges. Okay. Just like the vertices, we can manipulate it. We can move the edge forward, backward. Okay. Rotate it. We can also do that. And scale. We can also scale it. Okay. So depending on what we are modeling right now, we can utilize which part of the model we want to manipulate. Is it the vertex? Is it the edge? Or is it the entire model? Okay. So for example, I can make a pyramid shape by selecting the four edges and then scaling it down. Okay, and then we have a pyramid shape. Okay, so let's go back to the object mode. Hold right click and then hover to object mode. Okay, so last component is the face. So hold right click again, select the model, hold right click and hover to the face and release. Okay. So face is the side that is created when we connect the lines or the edges. So for example, these four edges, this one, okay, they create this face. Okay. So we can move it down, move it up, rotate it, okay, and scale it. Okay. Also, we can select multiple faces by holding shift. Okay. So that is the face. So that are those are the three components: vertex, edge, and face, and the object mode. So object mode is just the model, the entire model. Okay. So from what we've learned so far, let's try to make a simple model of a house. Let's delete this one. So for example, I'll use this cube. So these are the walls of my house. I'll create another cube. Okay, then move it upwards using the move tool. Okay, so scale it. I'll use this as my roof. Okay, so I can select the face. So I'll select the face of the second model, second cube, scale it down, move it downwards, and there you can create a simple house. Okay, so that's just the basics from the creation of the basic poly model to the basic tools. Okay, the scale, the rotate, and the move tool, and also the components of vertex, face, and edge. Okay, so those are the basics. Before we end, let's try to use another tool. Okay, we already know the three basic components, the vertex, edge, and face. Let's try to learn a new tool. Okay, so we can see it here in edit mesh. Okay, so for example, okay, let's use a new model. Let's use a polycylinder. Okay, using this polycylinder, okay, one model only, we'll be able to create a simple tree. Okay, so let's scale it down using the scale tool. Okay, then we'll use this as the bottom part of our tree. Okay, then hold right click, select face. We will select all the top portion of our cylinder. Okay, so to select multiple faces, just hold shift, then just click the faces that you want. Okay, so let's proceed with the new tool that we can use. Okay, so when you go to this toolbar, edit mesh, you will see here extrude or control E. Okay, so we will be using the hotkey or the shortcut key control E to extrude. Okay, but you can also click it here, edit mesh extrude. Okay, so what does it do? So when you extrude a face or a portion of your model, we are extending the model without destroying the original shape. Okay, so we are only extending the part which we selected. So for example, let's repeat that. Okay, I selected these faces, okay, the top portion of my cylinder. I will press Control E. Okay, then if I move tool, If I press W and move tool, you will notice that if I move it and I scale it, okay, the original cylinder shape is still here. The only thing that I have done is extended the model. Okay, so let's try to make a shape of the bottom of the tree. Okay. And let's do that again. Control E. Okay, move it upwards again. Then scale it down. Okay, Control E for extrude. Scale it up. Then Control E again. Move it up. Scale it down. Okay. Then Control E again. Scale. Control E again. Move it up. Scale it down. Okay. So for example, something like that. Okay. So we are able to create a simple model. Okay. Using just one model and the extrude tool. Okay. So the shortcut key for extrude is control plus letter E, that is equal to extrude. Extrude is like extending the model. Okay. So from a simple cylinder like this one, we were able to create a shape similar to a tree. Okay. So let's have a more complicated example. Okay, before we okay, let's try to create a um, pawn from chess. So for example, let's use this here. So here is a image of a pawn. Okay. Using just a cylinder like we did earlier, let's try to emulate the shape of this pawn. Okay, using extruding. Okay. So first, let's click the cylinder. Okay. Then we can scale it down. So we'll make this shape first. Okay. Scale it down. Okay. Next. Okay. So in this example, after the base part, okay, when there is like a um, it goes inside here in this portion. So I'll select this face. I will extrude it upwards, then scale it down. So first, select all the faces, then Control E to extrude. Okay, move it upwards, then scale it down. Okay, so the shape is something similar to this. Okay, next, okay, we can extrude again, Control E. Then let's make this shape next. Okay, extrude, Control E, move it up, scale it up and there. So if you want a smoother curvature, you can add more extrusions. Okay, so extrude again, then add minimal increments in your scaling. Okay, extrude again, move up, scale up, extrude again, move up. Okay, extrude, scale down. Okay, So it will be a repetitive process, okay, until you will be successful in creating the or emulating the shape that we are trying to achieve. Extrude, move up, scale down, move down. Okay. Right now, you can go back to object mode, hold right click object mode, just to view how is your model so far. Okay. Then we can go back to the face, then just continue extrude upwards. So you can just look at your reference photo and just follow it how it looks, and this is just a simple model, so you can create it easily using extrusion only. So extrude there, extrude it upwards. Let's try to finish it. Okay, model is not very perfect, but for demo purposes you can use this one. So extrude and move and scale. Okay, so before I proceed in creating the um, circular shape at the top of the model, okay, I will share another tip you can use. Okay, so that is pressing spacebar. Okay, when we press spacebar, okay, let's try it. Ayan. When you press spacebar, okay, um, you will be transported in the four views. Okay, there is the top view, perspective view, and front and side view. Okay, so here you can transfer from top view. Just press spacebar again. Move your mouse in the top portion. Okay, here in the top quadrant. Then press spacebar again, and then you will be transported in the top view. Or if you press spacebar again and then hover your mouse in the front view, okay, press spacebar, then you will be transported in the front view. So you can use this, okay? If you have a big screen, you can do this simultaneously. Top view, perspective view, you can move simultaneously, okay? If this is if this works for you, you're more comfortable in this workspace, you can use this. Or you can just transfer. Okay, press spacebar, focus on the front first, and press spacebar again when you're done, then go back to perspective view. Okay, so that's just one tip using spacebar to go for views. Okay, so let's go back in extruding the face, creating the um, top portion of the pond. Okay, so extrude upwards, scale. Okay, to make a circular shape, we have to add many extrusions so the transition will be smooth. Okay, move up, extrude up. Okay, Extrude, there, extrude last one. Okay. So if we go back to object mode, okay, this is the look of our model so far. Okay. So it looks like a pond now. Only problem I'm seeing is the edges are rough. You can see the edges. Okay. So let's try to smoothen it. Okay. We can use this, go to mesh display, and then soften edges. Okay. I'll change my share screen so you can see the full screen. Hello, Ma'am Nelsie. Can I share the screen again? And thank you. So here, the mesh display, select the model, then click mesh display, then soften edge, then there. So the edges are much smoother now. Okay. So let's compare the two. I'll duplicate this. To duplicate a model, just press Ctrl D. There. Mesh display. If you can soften the edge, you can also harden it. So mesh display, harden edge. Okay. So let's compare the two. On the left side, here is the hard edge model. The edges are rough. You can see the individual edges. Okay. In the right side, you can see that the model is much smoother. Okay. Without adding topology, the model looks more smooth by using mesh display soften edge. Okay. So yes, so that's the sample of creating a model just using one model from this simple cylinder. You can create many things, okay, by just using extrude. For example, okay, it's not only the cylinder, you can also use the cube tool. Okay. If you remember earlier, when I created the cube, created the simple house, we can also do that by using only one model and using extrude. Okay. Select the face, the top face of the cube, Control E, extrude it, then extrude it again, Control E, move up, scale down. Okay. So yes, there. So that's the basic of 3D modeling here in Maya. Okay. So that's the basic fundamentals. Okay. If you're using a different software, okay, there's no problem. You can also find these things. Okay. There's also a counterpart on those tools in your software. Okay. But those are the basics. The how to move the model, how to interact with the viewport, okay, the basic components, the vertex, edge, face, and extruding. Okay, you can also see that in the other softwares. Okay, let's just duplicate this, Control D, and move it so we can have many pawn models. Last thing that I want to teach is let's just add color to this model. So um, let's try it. So select the model, hold right click, and then assign favorite material lamp. Okay. Okay, in the right side, you will see Lambert, and then there will be color. Just select the color that you want, for example, red. Okay, let's select the next model. Hold right click, Assign favorite material, Lambert. Okay, let's select yellow. Okay, so let's repeat that. Hold, select the model, right click, assign favorite material, Lambert. Okay, so we have now colorful fonts, different colored fonts. Let's make this color black. Okay, so that's the basics of 3D modeling here in Maya. Okay, so if you have questions, I'm okay to answer those. Okay, and Ma'am Nelsie.
Ayan. And Fusion has an option to set the preferences according to other popular software. So, do we have any such feature in Maya?
Okay, so I'm not sure if we can do that here in Maya in the key press, but also in Blender. For example, in Blender, there is a option like that in Fusion also where you can use the um, hotkeys or shortcut keys of Maya or other software. But here in Maya, I'm not sure since this is my native software. I'm not sure if we can use other hotkeys here.
Okay. Another question, is Maya a parametric software? So, do you have any experience with Fusion 360, sir?
I don't have also experience there since I'm more in the game arts and game field. So, but you can also mod here. You can input parameters here. Okay, manually if you want to use that when modeling.
Okay. Can we import 3D models from other softwares?
Oh, can we import from other softwares to Maya? Is that the question? Okay. When importing other models here in Maya, you can go to File, then Import. Then there are file types that Maya supports. For example, the basic file types like OBJ, FBX, DAE. Okay, but there are also other. Okay, you can convert the models that you have in OBJ or FBX. So that's the universal accepted by the when transferring files. But there are other file formats here like ATF, BIF, SVG. So you can use that as well. When exporting the models then, you can select the model that you want to export. For example, you want to export this model and import it in another software. Let's go to File, Export Selection. If you want a selection only, File Export Selection. Then select what type of file format you want to export it. Okay. Is it Maya binary, FBX, OBJ, DAE? So you can use that step file and also export that. Then there.
Okay, ayan. Can you show one render process, please?
Okay. Sure, let's try to render. I'll use the basic lights. So the render here in Maya is the Arnold render. Okay. So here are the basic render settings. Here in the Arnold shelf, I'll use the sky dome light, which is a basic lighting where it will light up the whole scene. Okay. I'll add also a plane. Okay, plane model. So we have a ground plane. Okay, okay, let's focus the camera where we want the angle to be. So for example, right here, I'll scale it up the ground plane more. Okay, then let's test to render it. Okay, when rendering, you just have to place the angle of the camera and then add the lighting. Then when you're happy with the composition of the scene, okay, if it's just an image, you can press this, the second icon here in the upper portion of your screen. It's like the clapper in film. When you click that, okay, Arnold will start rendering there. Okay, so we can change the color of the ground. Let's change it to color white. Okay, then let's try to render it again. So that's the rendering here in Maya. Just clicking the clapper icon.
Okay, so sir, in Maya canvas, there is a graph. What are the sizes of graph box to understand more clear? If we want to create model in size, how this will work?
Okay. The question is a bit confusing, but I'll try to read it again. Maya. Oh, let's go to settings, preferences. Okay. So I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but the units that we're working on in Maya, okay, is at the default is centimeters. Okay, so each unit here in the channel box, for example, I select this model. Okay, each unit is in centimeters. Okay, but you can change that in the size that you want or unit, for example, milliliters, meters, inch, foot, depending on the scale of um, what you're working at. So you will see here that there's a type of sort of a grid. So each point in that grid is in centimeter. Okay.
Okay, eto. What's the recommended PC specs for Maya?
I think we can look at that in their website. Maya specs. It says here that system requirements for Autodesk Maya. Okay. And at least 8 gigs of RAM, but 16 gigs or more is recommended. This space 4 gig available for the installation of the software. Also, what I recommend is if you're rendering heavy, okay. For example, if you're creating visual effects here in Maya, you should have a graphics card installed in your computer. Also, um, invest in a SSD hard drive, okay? Since it will load your software faster. That's my recommendations.
Okay, can we model using a specific dimensions?
Can we use 2D drawing dimensions to create 3D model? Yes, for example, just be more tedious. For example, there is a measurement tools here. I'll go to the top view, create measurement tools. Example, I want to model a cube. That's the dimension will be um, oops, example here. I can measure that using this distance tool. Just select the points. Then I know that this distance of the cube I created so far is 12 milliliters. So if I want this top side to be 14, I have a measurement tool here, distance tool. Add one again. Okay, so 8, example there, 18. So I can select again the cube, then scale it to here. So now I know that this is 12 by 18 in the measurement.
Okay. Another question. Sir James, what's the difference of that MB file and that MA file?
Okay. The difference is um, the code and how the model was saved or the scene was saved. So MB file is the much newer version, the binary. Okay, so when it's saved, it's in binary form. The codes when you open it in codes format, it's in binary, and then when it's in MA or ASCII, it's in ASCII format.
Okay. Ayan. So, Sir James, what's your advice to students who are starting out with Maya?
Right. Um, just like I said earlier, it's at first it will be scary. I experienced that also when I was starting. The the interface is overwhelming, but um, all softwares are like that. Okay, there's always a learning curve. Okay, just continue practicing. If you know the snowball effect, at first it will be slow, but just be consistent, practicing and practicing, and then slowly but surely um, you will improve and improve, and you will not know after a few months, after 3 months, 5 months, a year, you will see the improvement. Eh, So there, just be consistent and practice.
Okay. So, Sir James is Sir James is an animation instructor, ha? So, what's your opinion on on how useful is Maya for engineering modeling? Any thoughts, Sir James, if you have?
Um, I think it's much more focused on the art side for film and game. But you can also use this. But the other software of Autodesk is much more. um, what do you call this, is much more mas ano English, recommended for engineering. This is for example, animation, VFX. That's the main use for Maya for me.
Yes, just to add, no, all Autodesk softwares has its own strength. Just like what Sir James said, Maya is for VFX and animation. So some softwares are for manufacturing, product design, architecture. Okay? Okay, I think he's asking for a tip. Left side of the canvas, there are mouse indications. Sir, can you tell us which software is that?
Oh, that's the Karnak. I'll search it. Karnak on screen. So here it is. It's a software I use when I am teaching. So it will show my key press and mouse press. Here, the Karnak keyboard utility.
Okay. Any more question, guys? If you have questions, post it in our comment section. Yeah. For Mohammed, I do post a link that's using Autodesk Maya for concept modeling in the automotive industry. So please do read, and it will answer you what's the uh, how useful is Maya for engineering modeling? Okay. Any more question, guys? Have questions? Yeah. Thanks for such a great session.
Thank you to Muhammad
Thanks, Sir, and
Shada.
thanks, Sir James. So, another question. Is Maya's hair modeling to the single strand to the more composed animated ones?
Is Maya ceremony robust? Yes. I think yes. There's a tool here in Maya. There are actually two tools you can use for creating hair. Okay. There's the this is a ano. It's now in the effects tab. It's not in the modeling anymore. Since hair is a simulation, if you watch the films in Disney, Pixar, the hair is realistic. They're using the simulation of N hair or the um, X-Gen hair. Okay, so let's try. Let's just use the basic settings. Okay, for example, here is the sphere. I created an N hair for it. When I play the timeline, it simulates the hair. If I move this cube sphere, let's test it. So there the hair follows the sphere. So that's another part of Maya's capabilities. It's the effects, the simulation of things like hair, clothes, fire, water. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do post the link of Sir James LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with him. Okay, ayan. So, no more question, guys, before we end our session this afternoon. And once more, thank you, Sir James, for doing this for our community. And we hope to see you on another Maya session.
Thank you, Ma'am Nancy. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you all to those who attended.
Thanks, Sir James. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, to claim your certificate of event participation, message us in meetup.com/Autodesk Community Philippines. Okay, let me share that. Chrome tab. Yeah. Message us in meetup.com/Autodesk Community Philippines together with your full name, your school or company name, and the title of the training. Okay, don't forget uh, to message the title of the training. Okay? And if you have future questions, you can also message us in meetup.com. Okay? Okay, so our next session will be on October 8th, creating dynamic assemblies in Fusion 360. If you're interested to learn Fusion 360, join us on October 8th. Okay, creating dynamic assemblies in Fusion 360. All right, thanks everyone for joining, and we hope to see you on October 8th. Bye, everyone.